Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
Welcome back to the Think Factory podcast, powered by OGC Solutions. I'm Chris Santomassimo, your host today, and I'm, of course, from OGC Solutions, but really excited to be on site at Kirkwood Printing up in Wilmington, Massachusetts, and sitting with our friend John Cappelletti, who happens to be Kirkwood's Senior VP of Kirkwood Secure Health. So welcome to the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me. Glad you're here today.
Me too. I mean, as I said to you before we started, you're a plug-and-play kind of guest because you've got lots of interesting stuff to talk about, both historically in terms of your career experiences. And one thing I mentioned just before we hit the record button was you've got that unique sort of three-sided experience. You started in print, worked on the agency side, maybe it's a four-sided.
Might be, yeah.
Worked for a major customer and back in the printing space. So
yeah, that's right.
We'd love to hear about your experiences and how you ended up here at Kirkwood.
Yeah, thanks. And first of all, thanks for having me. It's a privilege to be on this on your podcast today, and I'm glad to be here.
Wait till we get to the end, and then you can decide if it was still a privilege.
All right, good. We'll do. But for sure, I've had a very interesting career. If you're interested in print, at least, I started at a very young age in the printing business, running a press. And with a family friend that owned a business near my house. As I was just telling you earlier on, my dad died when I was very young, so went to work at an early age, and I was taking graphics classes in high school, and had the opportunity to run a press, and got right into it and loved it. I just fell in love with it.
That was old style, offset printing back then.
Yeah, I was running a two-color press, Ryobi with a T-head, and I was doing a lot of books, two-color books from McCormick and Dodge, some of the catalogs back then, and really got into it. But moved quickly through the ranks with that company in particular, and ended up at their headquarters in Medford, Mass, and became a general manager after running presses for a while. And then I saw everybody going to lunch in shirts and ties and said, that's for me, and went into sales. And
sick having ink under your nose, right?
Yeah, I'd starved for a couple of years until I finally started getting some accounts and really enjoyed the sales aspect of it. But really worked in every capacity leading up to that.
The sales side seems to fit your personality too. You're able to consult. You're able to talk to people in a comfortable way. So obviously you were suited for it, right?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And for some reason, I seem to have, whether it was luck or just being in the right place at the right time, but I seem to get healthcare clients, and got into the healthcare side of the business very early on the print side, and subsequently was very early on the days of variable print and dynamic print. In fact, where I ended up working at CVS, they were my biggest client at one point, and I was doing the extra care card mailers for them back in the day when it was on a web press with Cytex heads. And so we were running, a 6 or a 7 color mailer with very deeply personalized segments on it that got the personalization got imprinted after the ink, and then it got finished and mailed, went right into mail trays, and it was for their extra care card program. And again, subsequently, I was in the room when that was developed, and they started out with, I think, 500 people on that list, and they have over 100 million today. And the reason for the success of that program was they used transactional records and then did personalized coupons for somebody right after they shopped for those products. And they would sometimes move them around with like products too to grow their basket. But it was a very intelligent program back there. And I was working for one of the only printers in the country that could do it. With the Cytex heads and the web press. So got into that very early on, and that's how I ended up being around healthcare as much.
We were kind of on the edge back then because the idea of variable printing was not as universal as it is now. Plus you're dealing with really sensitive information about people's spend and what they might be doing in a pharmacy.
So true, yeah. And in fact, in the early days, people had a weird reaction to it. They were almost a little weirded out by the fact that it was a little big brotherish, because they felt, well, how do these people know this about me? And How do they know what products I like, and how do they know my name? And that quickly transitioned to, where's my coupons? Where's my mailer?
Right.
You know, where's my dynamic message that speaks directly to me about the drugs I take for maintenance, the medications that I take to keep me alive. Where's the information that they get used to getting that's very specifically about them? And that's the stuff that is really important in the dynamic space, at least.
Well, coupons are so important to a lot of retailers. I remember there was one retailer, JCPenney, that tried to stop using coupons, and their sales went into the basement because of it.
Yeah, and then they turned around and actually did some work for JCPenney in my print days. They turned that around and then went through we're going out of business for 20 years. And they made a living at that, right? They did those going out of business sales better than anybody. And people would flock to the stores thinking they're going to get a great deal, and, you know, they'd never go out of business. But they did finally, of course. But they were big on that as well.
Yeah, it's amazing. And that's just an example of, you know, the power of print and also the power of mail print, right?
Yeah.
When you can customize it to really hit the taste of the customer.
Yeah, it's very powerful. The results of a personalized mailer are so much greater than a static piece, right? Because the static piece is clearly speaking to everybody. And by the way, that's very relevant in the healthcare space, right? Because that's the difference between a first class and a standard mailer. If I send out a mailer that says, hey, Lipitor is a great drug, and, you know, these are all the great benefits of Lipitor, that's a marketing piece that can go standard mail. But if I say, hey, Chris, you're taking Lipitor, and these are the benefits of it, and you should still keep taking it, now that's a private mailing, and that's got to go first class. You know, being in that space early gave me the benefit to be able to come up with consultative situations like that to help people to reduce their spend. Because, you know, companies in the healthcare space, they just did everything first class versus going standard with some of their marketing messages, and they wouldn't know any better, right? So that gave me some powerful, sort of consultative moments to be able to help people to synergize in print as well.
Well, then you're providing more of a solution to your clients rather than just saying, hey, we can put ink on paper and throw it in the mail.
That's right. And you know, honestly, Chris, that's what we're doing here at Kirkwood. That's the difference. That's a difference maker for us, at least in the secure space.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, we're definitely going to talk about Kirkwood.
Yeah.
But I'd love to hear kind of what happened in the middle for you, because I think that's really interesting in terms of who you are now and what you're able to deliver for customers at Kirkwood.
Sure, yeah. So, you know, I stayed in the print space until the economy got kind of rough. And I was doing work for CVS, and, with print changing and evolving so much, all of the sales and the consolidation, some of the bigger guys were buying up the smaller guys, became a revolving door for me a bit. So I had an opportunity to get into the agency space, which was great because and I didn't know it then, but I do now. It really rounded my career out. I went in and took over the production department at the agency, just managing the groups and trying to make it a more efficient environment and trying to help the agency to help their clients to be more efficient and save money. And we had a very, very successful number of years. Candidly, with CVS was one of the bigger accounts, which is how I got so close to them before I went to work there.
Well, the agency work that you've done is helpful because you understand how that side of it rolls and how the agencies are going to place the work in the printing space.
That's right. Yeah, that was a really valuable lesson for me to see how that worked and the creative process and the marketing aspect of it. I learned a tremendous amount about marketing, which candidly, Chris, in the end, really helped me because when I was at CVS on the client side, the majority of my clients in the outer community in the corporation were marketing people, whether it was on the healthcare side or the retail side or what they call their PBM side, which is prescription benefit management. Everybody was either in marketing or were product owners with marketing backgrounds. So what I did at the agency really helped to prepare me for that role.
Right. You know, one thing I love about printing, I love a lot of things about printing, but one of them is...
Me too.
Yeah, one of besides all the technology and all those things that are great to watch, it's that artistic side of things that really pervade all of the aspects of printing. You know, the development of the messaging, development of the printed work, and the design that goes into it before it even hits the press. And you got to experience that on the agency side.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And, you know, obviously because of my experience with sales, they also had me in somewhat of a business development role as well at the agency. And so, there was a long-standing stereo equipment company in Tweeter, et cetera. I don't know if you remember that.
Of course I do, yeah.
Yeah, they were in bankruptcy, and I cold called them for the agency, and we ended up getting their business, and we did a bunch of newspaper circulars and a lot of direct mail to help try to save the company when they were in receivership. And it didn't end up working out because that industry was changing, frankly. But I learned so much about, you know, how the print was relevant to their marketing plan and how the agency positioned itself from a marketing standpoint and worked with the client and the leadership, the C-level leadership, and how that all worked was really a tremendous learning experience for me from a business standpoint.
Well, in those days, you really didn't have the internet to fall back on in order to try and save money.
Yeah.
As an advertiser.
Right.
Yeah.
Nobody was Googling things.
No.
Yeah. So, and back then it was people were still buying stereos. And so that company still was doing well, but, you know, now of course that's all moved to the internet.
And Best Buy maybe a little bit, right?
Yeah, true. And that's, candidly, Best Buy and Circuit City put them out of business.
Yeah.
And Circuit City ended up going too, and Best Buy is surviving, but certainly not because of their brick and mortar.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
So you got the hard, the difficult side of print under your belt. You got which is the production. Then you got the agency. And how do you end up back on the print side?
Well, you know, when I was done on the agency side, you know, again, the economy wasn't doing great and the agency world was changing and evolving. And, CVS Health decided to take a lot of their print management and print buying in-house. And director on the marketing side, who actually I just spoke to yesterday, he and I are very close, great friend now, reached out to me and said, hey, you've been managing our work as a vendor for so many years and you have such a great network here. We're going to be taking the management of the print in-house and we'd love to talk to you about coming to work here. And I said, oh God, never even considered that.
Yeah.
And, but I thought I should have an open mind. Let me go check it out. But I knew that it was a tremendous opportunity for me. And I went in as a senior manager at CVS and took that from senior manager to a director role and at one point had 50 people on my team. I went there and took over a team of actual retail signage, point of purchase display, Chris. Very quickly, once I went there, the CEO actually had somebody reach out to me and ask me to go take a look at the healthcare side because they had some concerns around compliance and how they were managing data, and they thought they had a vendor issue. And this is relevant to my story because very early on in that stage I said, I'm happy to go look at it, but I'm going to tell you, I'm either going to find out that we have a bad vendor or we're not a good client. And I'm going to tell you the truth one way or the other. And in that instance, we weren't being a good client. We weren't managing data properly. And it was in the very early stages, like you said, about variable communications and dynamic communications. But there were things that were happening. And again, people didn't know any better. And I realized very quickly that that's where my attention needed to be. And this is a big part of the story. Right at that point, I decided, boy, this needs, contracted and approved vendor, locked vendor base. It requires an account services team, which I learned on the agency side, because they didn't have one. They didn't have an account services group. So we built all of that at CVS. We centralized print. The CEO said, John, do it. You have my blessing. I want you to fly around the country. Print was decentralized on that company.
Oh, wow.
There were people all over the company buying print at CVS. He said, I want you to fly around the country, get everybody who's buying print, either take them on your team or take the head, and I want you to take over print. And I did. I flew across the country. I ended up with almost 50 people at one point. Mm-hmm. And then I took that, and I actually had teams in Chicago, Solon, Ohio, Northbrook, Illinois, and Rhode Island. And then over a period of time, Chris, I centralized it all to Rhode Island, put a process in place, put policies and procedures. I really tightened it down and torqued it up so that it was a really ironclad process. And for the last 6 or 7 years while I was at CVS, we didn't have one reprint and not one compliance issue that was caused by my team.
And no data breaches, anything?
Nope.
Right?
All SLAs were met. All KPIs were met. I really, and I'll tell you, and I got to tell you because you're a print guy, whenever I told my friends that in the print business, they would laugh at me and say, Cap, there's no way.
Yeah.
Print is so hard, and it's so easy to make a mistake in print. You've had to have mistakes. We had 0 reprints, 0 issues. We had the vendor breakdowns occasionally, but nothing that made us miss an SLA or caused a compliance issue. And we really had a fantastic run. So it was a tremendous learning experience for me, and managing the vendors in particular. And one thing that I did before I left CVS is I consolidated a number of vendors down. We had a group of work. It was a significant spend, and it was all ad hoc work. And I was asked by my leadership to figure out a way to manage it more efficiently. And that was the big thing that's being asked in the corporate environment today, and we can get to that hopefully today. But get it down and synergize it so that we're spending and we're being more efficient with it. And what I did was I worked with my team and we bucketized all the like jobs. And then there were like almost 40 vendors that were executing that universe of work. We took it to a smaller, I think 8 or 9 vendors, and said, "Hey, we're giving you, X amount of dollars today. What if we were able to double that or triple it, and then guarantee it? Would you give us better pricing?" And they said yes. And so we got lower pricing.
But you also get more consistency that way.
We did. It made it easier. We brought that 40 vendors down to 9. We were able to consolidate the management of the vendors, and we created a more easy to manage vendor management situation, and it gave us an opportunity to really stretch our legs a bit and gang run some of that work when we had the opportunity, or do it more efficiently, move to more efficient formats, use consistent paper types, those types of things. It was a really beneficial savings effort.
Because in the retail environment, that's one of the primary things a retailer strives for is consistency.
That's right.
Now, if there's going to be differences, it might be depending on location, because you want that difference, but you don't want your colors to not be the same, or your in-store your in-store print to look any different from one store to the next.
Yeah, that was really interesting, especially at CVS. They had 10,000 retail stores, and we did signage kits that had, in some instances, 100 different elements. And they would go to store and set up in store, in the aisles, end caps, all of that. And everything needed to match. And we did silk screening and offset, and everything had to match across the spectrum because it was one theme, whether it was Christmas or, 4th of July, summer, Mother's Day, Valentine's Day. Everything had to match. And you could be printing on styrene for a sign or an end cap, and then matte finish or even an uncoated, and everything has to at least look and complement it. So, yeah, it was pretty cool.
But flip to the supplier side, I think a lot of folks don't appreciate on the printing side how much pressure they have to meet not only SLAs that we know about, but all these technological improvements and technological changes, and being compliant with the standards as well as the contracts with their customers.
Right.
It's a big deal.
Yeah, it is a big deal. And, the vendors that are able to have that level of consistency and standardizing, how they do things, and being able to offer formats that fit press better and that are mailable, right? You can leverage the promotional calendar with the post office, or be able to have opportunities to do postal optimization. That's where the good stuff is.
Yep.
Yeah, but my experience at CVS coming back to Kirkwood really, couldn't have sort of set me up better for this new opportunity at Kirkwood, which is pretty exciting.
Well, you built your team, you built a lot of processes and procedures, and then you sort of take the opposite side of it, but the same concepts, and you bring them to Secure Health here at Kirkwood.
Yeah.
So you're able to really build upon that foundation.
Oh, absolutely. And, Kirkwood, the interesting thing about Kirkwood is I hired him as a vendor at CVS, right? So it'll give you an idea of how I feel about this company. I know the ownership. I've known him for years. I worked with him on the print side. So I trust them, and I know that they really know the business inside and out.
Well, obviously it was mutual because they brought you on. So.
Oh, yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah, and that was really nice, right? Again, not just because I was a client, but because they know I know the space. And to be honest, I was doing some consulting work with our chief sales officer, Mark Napper, and we were talking about, secure health and doing secure communications. And, Kirkwood always did them, but they had a recent acquisition that was pretty significant. And they had already had some success with what we call SSGs, Strategic Solutions Group, sorry.
Right.
I couldn't spit that out for a second. And with pharma. And we're actually contemplating doing one for retail. We've done retail for years, but we're just going to formalize it. And we wanted to kind of replicate what we did with pharma in the secure space, and try to, open it up and really deepen our connectivity in that vertical, and make sure people knew. Because I think because we were doing it, and we're, SOC 2, Type 2, and we're compliant, HIPAA compliant, people knew that, but not enough people knew about it. And, I think in some instances people sort of viewed Kirkwood as a smaller vendor, and we're a lot bigger now. And
sure.
with the acquisition, to add on that new facility in Hudson, and the equipment we have there for mailing, is really formidable. The digital equipment, we just added a new digital web press that is perfect for that kind of work. And I was consulting with Mark, and we were talking about formalizing that. And to your point, because they knew me and they knew my background, they said, "Hey, you'd be a great fit for this." And Chris, I was consulting and really enjoying it. And I hadn't really thought about coming to work again and coming to an office and working full-time, more than full-time, putting in a 50, 60-hour week. But best decision I ever made. It's really been wonderful, and it's a tremendous opportunity because there's a lot going on out there in the corporate environment. In particular, there are very few people, and this is not going to surprise you, there are very few people with our skill set, with our background, that know print.
Well,
right?
The operational side as well as the technological side.
Yeah. What we're seeing is, especially in healthcare and in finance too, the secure type print space, is that they're finding people that know a little bit about print. Maybe a sourcing person in procurement who says, "Well, I know print a little," or people that have some print experience, and they're saying, "Hey, let's have them manage the team." And, what that brings is somebody who only knows a little bit, who doesn't understand the whole scope of it, and most importantly, they don't typically have a strategy.
Right. They're just about tactical stuff.
Exactly. They're just executing. So they're not able to develop synergies and be efficient and standardize specs and use better formats and have a good vision to the postage spend, which is critical if you're going to try to, that's one of the things that I did really well at CVS. I took the postage relationship with the USPS rather, and if you could imagine, the spend at CVS was very significant.
These are big material numbers. Right?
Yeah, and I worked with others, not just myself, but worked with others to centralize that and to have more control over the relationship. Because, of course, Chris, when you're operating from one position with a total spend versus fragmented spend, it's a whole different situation, right? And we were able to get a lot more for it, and so that's what we can help our clients do too.
There's always resistance when you're trying to centralize something like that, because people feel like they're losing control.
Correct.
But meanwhile, they end up getting better service.
You do
as an internal customer.
And if you can just get through the difficult part of it, you get better service in the end, right? Because you're able to negotiate from a position of power, because you're leveraging your entire spend, not just a portion of it. prior to that at CVS, I had the responsibility of managing just the postage spend. There were other people that had control over the freight and logistics with the post office and other segments. And so what we did was we combined it all and operated from a bigger position of power, and we got a lot more notice from the senior leadership team at the post office. They put me on the MACTAC board, which is the board that makes decisions around the promotional items and the savings opportunities for the post office. And that was a great experience for me. But that's why we got that. And we actually got a USPS rep assigned to CVS that I could just leverage to help advance our mail, which was wonderful. My team learned a lot from her.
Well, you really been in all corners of this business at the end of the day. So this work you're doing at Kirkwood is really natural. It's a natural.
Yeah. So we're really trying to formalize our position in the space, trying to get our name out. We're meeting with healthcare, business owners, marketing leaders, C-suite people, and we're trying to get the word out about what we're doing and why we're different, right? And the differentiator really, Chris, is that we're offering a free audit and assessment of their current state. And you remember a moment ago I was saying that, the lack of strategy, and it's kind of the Wild West. They're doing all these different things, but like you said, it's strictly tactical. It's execution. And we're able to go in and stop everything and kind of look at the invoices from their vendors and kind of study what they're doing and then bring back a proposal on where we can add value. And I think you mentioned this earlier, it's being able to be a partner and being able to bring solutions, not just being a printer and taking orders. We're literally going in and we're acting as a partner, a consulting partner, and bringing solutions to the table that can help solve and having been in the corporate world, the number one thing that I was asked was, John, you got to save money. You got to reduce that spend. There's got to be room there to save money. And that's what's happening in corporate America. People are being asked to reduce spend or lose heads, right? And
or whatever the amount of money is you're going to spend, you got to be more strategic
and
improve more ROI.
Right. So that's exactly, very high level, but that's what we're offering, and we're trying to get our name out, and we're trying to, I'm leveraging my network that as best I can, which is pretty significant, but we're also, we have sales reps within Kirkwood that we're touching healthcare, and we're trying to help to expand existing customers as well. And again, getting the word out about the latest acquisition and our growth with equipment and expanding with people too, which is very big. And there's another thing that I worked with, the leadership group here, and they had they were open-minded to doing this, is we've created an implementation team here. Because, and I think you know this, Chris, one of the number one barriers for, especially in secure print, to changing vendors is the worry about risk and what's going to go wrong. Am I going to have a breach? Is there going to be a problem? And the differentiator for us is we've got that implementation team of very, very skilled and talented, experienced print people, IT people, people who have worked on automated, complex, variable communications in the past, that know how to write a business requirements document, that can work with the client to set the logic and all of the front-end work that's required in an automated program for the composition, so that data feeds can come in and an automated environment can be built. We're able to do that, and the next piece of that, which is the moneymaker really, is we can test that in parallel while the other environment's still running, and wait until it's running exactly, the new environment's running exactly the way it's intended to, and then you can switch over. And it eliminates and reduces the risk down to a point where the client feels less threatened.
That's a huge differentiator to be able to run in parallel like that and be able to, because on the Kirkwood side, that's a big investment of time and effort.
It is.
Right? You may not be processing that job, but you're using that data file to be able to get ready for the next one.
Yeah, it's really cool. We created documentation for all of the things I just spoke of, the audit, the implementation team, so that we have a business requirement document, or what we call a BRD in our business, already pre-populated almost with the things that are critical. And then my team can come to the table and say to the client, hey, we only need your people a couple of hours, and we can build this out and then release your folks and get to work. and build the environment for you, and do it in an efficient manner where we can do the things I was mentioning earlier around standardization of specifications and better market-ready formats that are fit not just for press, for efficiency, for a better yield, but also you can use a cheaper postage spend, right? Because you get a better size, or you're able to do some other things, that would reduce your spend. So,
one thing I don't want to, give short shrift to is this audit or the assessment that you do.
Yeah.
I think of it as a health assessment, which is
it is, yeah.
a little ironic that you're talking to a healthcare client about.
No, that's a great way of saying it. Yeah.
Exactly what they do for their patients every day, right?
Yeah.
You're asking, what's the history been? What are the symptoms that you have now, and how are we going to fix them going forward in an organized way?
Yeah, it's really exciting, and very quickly you can make a big impact. And there's great savings opportunities when you're able to do that, when you get that look. I should say another great opportunity and a big differentiator for us, by the way, is especially in the compliance spaces, is in most instances for compliance variable communications, they've got to get into the mail stream fast. And because of the type of equipment we have, our mailroom is probably one of the best and more formidable in New England. It's very strong. We have a great number of inserters and inkjetters, and so we're able to push out a pretty significant volume, almost as much as 2 million pieces a day.
Wow.
And do it quickly. And in many instances, we have programs in the healthcare space that are, files in the morning and printed pieces out in the afternoon. And that's a requirement.
Right.
It's not just this is our SLA. It's hey, by law, we have to have this in the mail stream. It's got to be post-dated today. And we're able to do that. And that's a big difference maker for us.
On the print provider side, it's so key. I mean, what I see often is not all, but some companies, they're so excited to get the business, they don't really appreciate the impact of those SLAs and what they mean if you don't hit them, right?
Yeah.
And if you haven't organized yourself the way you're talking about here at Kirkwood, you're always sort of on the edge. Am I going to make my SLAs or not? And what happens if I don't? If I get caught, right? It's always looking over your shoulder, hoping you don't get caught.
Yeah. Well, it's really interesting. You see a lot of things with your clients or prospective clients, and a lot of the types of things that we see is that the clients are sort of outpacing their vendors, right? Especially in the healthcare space, where they're becoming more sophisticated than their vendors are. And their vendors are just like wanting to show up and take specs and go off with a job.
Right.
They're not prepared to consult and to make recommendations and to bring solutions. And that's a big problem. And because thankfully it makes it easier for us. I had a situation recently where, a prospective client was having problems with the execution of a piece, and they weren't getting reporting on number of pieces mailed, and there were a lot of different elements in their reporting that just wasn't there. And, they realized very quickly through talking to us that we can provide that reporting on SLAs and KPIs and manage it and deliver it to them so that they don't have to worry about it, but they can see that we're doing what, we promised we'd do. And a lot of vendors can't deliver that, believe it or not.
Right.
It seems a little embarrassing.
Yeah, that consultative approach is super key, I would say.
Very, very important, especially today, like I said, in the corporate environment where senior leadership is demanding that, business owners and spenders of budgets are becoming more responsible and more prudent and fiscally responsible as a company, right?
Yeah, that's a difficult dynamic to operate in, where your client is ahead of you sometimes. That's not where you want to be. You want to be a step ahead of the client to be able to offer those solutions. So,
right.
Yeah, you got to have the right tools in the toolbox for that.
And that's what we're, so look, the hardest thing is getting the word out and getting in front of people. Once we get in front of people, they're able to see the value that Kirkwood has. I mean, and we have, and I think, we gave you a tour of the facility. We have premium print, targeted direct mail, large format, promo, which is a big piece of what we do. And then we have warehouse and fulfillment. It's kind of our 5 pillars. The secure print, obviously, which we've been talking about today, but which falls into the targeted direct mail piece, right? But
who would be what type of company would you think would be, in focus for the secure health piece?
I'm glad you asked. Yeah. So really, I'd say our ideal client is in the, maybe 50,000 members up to maybe 5 or 6 million. Sort of the mid-sized healthcare companies, TPAs, third-party administrators, Medicare, Medicaid, pharmacy benefit management companies like CVS Caremark.
Right.
Those types of companies, those are the companies we're really sort of have our sights set on. And like I said, we're doing business with some of them already. But again, we're trying to expand, and there's an awful lot of companies in that space. Print is still their most effective communication source, right? So it's an ideal market for us, and it's a great place for us to be able to expand, especially with the investments we've made here at Kirkwood. So,
on the transactional side of what they do, the power of mail to mail those types of pieces is the same power you see on the direct marketing side, right?
Right.
It's going to stay in front of people. It's going to get handled as opposed to something that gets emailed, which gets missed a lot.
Right.
For sure.
Yeah. And, having been on both sides, I've seen, and it's not a detriment to the big guys because they have some great equipment too and multiple locations, and there's an argument for that, but they don't really necessarily have the folks that have had the experience of being on the client side and seeing what it takes to manage that from the client position, and the impact of a piece out of compliance and what that means. We've got that, and it's not just me. There's others here at Kirkwood that have that experience and skill set, and the team on the secure health side, they're just so experienced and have been in the industry for a long time, and either around direct mail or secure direct mail, and have worked on the healthcare space as well. So they really get that space, and it's an opportunity for us to really be a big difference maker in the market.
At the end of the day, you're making your customers' lives easier, and that's what they need. Especially when you're talking about reduced staffs and doing more with less. Right?
Yeah, and that's the truth, man. And the clients that I'm speaking to, that's one of the first thing I hear. My staff, I don't have the time. We can't. We don't have the time to be strategic. All we can be is tactical. We need help with the strategy side, because even though my leadership knows I don't have enough staff, they're still expecting me to do my job. And they're still expecting me to deliver a business plan for synergies and to be able to drive cost savings. And I just can't do it. I'm so busy executing. I need help. And that's where we come in. And, these companies don't want to spend additional money and hire consultants. So to be able to work with a vendor and get that consultative approach just for the spend, and we bring, and by the way, Chris, I want to be clear, we're not just offering a cheaper price, right? Anybody can do that. We're offering better solutions that ultimately deliver a better savings, right? And that's the difference. And it's sustainable, right? And scalable. So once you put those new changes in place, they can really make bigger impact as they grow, right? And that's where the benefit is.
Yeah, the lower costs is you're chasing each other down the rat hole when you compete on price.
That's right.
But if you can provide better service, better quality at the same time for a lower cost,
right?
Then everybody's happy, right?
Yeah. To your point about helping the client and making their lives easier, once they realize that and they understand the value proposition of what we're trying to bring, it's really an easy play. But it's getting to that point and getting the word out, and because let's be honest, in the healthcare space in particular, secure print compliance work, they don't change printers or vendors willy-nilly. So we need to be able to show that value, and we're doing it very effectively. And so far it's been really great. We've got our work cut out for us, and we need to continue down this path, but it's been real exciting, and we're getting great results so far.
I love focusing on folks that have got some special differentiators, and you've got multiple differentiators. You've already handled certainly on the execution side, but the ability to give that health assessment or audit and develop solutions, that's what it's all about for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and again, we do all the other things in print too. We're doing a lot of retail, signage, point of purchase display signage, and other types of marketing, direct mail, and you've seen the tour.
Yeah.
We're very diverse company, and we can offer a lot of different things. And truthfully, Chris, the healthcare space uses a lot of this stuff too. They have events, and they do point of purchase display, and they use other types of commercial print too. So once we're able to help with the secure work, typically the expansion into other pillars within Kirkwood are pretty easy at that point.
Well, people should come see you, if for no other reason, to see how a puzzle was printed and made. That was very cool.
Thanks. Yeah, that's really fun. Yeah, the die for the puzzle, and to be able to know that, it gives me a little advantage when I'm down the Cape with my in-laws and my wife doing a puzzle.
Exactly.
I got a little help.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, well, listen, John, I have to say this was a really enjoyable conversation. You not only made it fun, but being able to talk about a company that's doing as much as Kirkwood is doing is really exciting for me. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been a fun process, and I really enjoy being here today to talk to you.
We want to have you back, because I'm sure you're going to have more to talk about as this thing grows, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. That would be great, Chris. Thank you.
Well, thanks a lot for joining the Think Factory podcast. This has been John Cappelletti, who's the Senior Vice President at Kirkwood Secure Health at Kirkwood Printing up in Wilmington, Mass. And this has been Chris Santomassimo from the Think Factory podcast. We'll see you next time.